Holmes, Louis.
Good. Hey.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Grit Mom. Today is a special Independence Day episode that I'm sharing with my sister. And I wanted to share this episode because it's especially important to me because she is a member of the Armed Forces.
Hi.
This is Kabira Smith.
Hi.
I picked this episode especially because she is a grit parent because unlike anything I've ever noticed, 2 years ago, my sister moved to the area, but she's been a part of the Armed Forces for how long?
16 years.
16 years, but it never really was a part of my life. She was always in New York and New Jersey, and I'm in the DC, Maryland area. So when she moved here, I never really got a glimpse of her life until then. And it just really opened up a realm of a different lane of parenting that I never knew. So I wanted to, on this special Independence Day, acknowledge that part and really discuss with her what does grit parenting mean for her as a single mom in the Army. And what does that look like? How does she prepare her son, my nephew, who is 6 years old, well 5, about to be 6 in August.
Yes.
How does she prepare him for grit in these times where I've experienced her go away for weeks for training. I've seen her, of course, do a week and a month for drill and summers away. And I've never seen it firsthand. So I wanted her to talk to us today about what it means to be a part of the Army. Like, she's been a part of the Army for 16 years, but
It's kind of different now because most of the time I've been in the Army, I didn't have a son.
Okay.
When I had my son, it was like in 2012. I just came on active duty and I had my son. And since then, it's just been going. But I think first for me was more like communication. I had to communicate with my family. I had to communicate. At the time he was very young, so I had to communicate with people around me because then we don't realize how many single parents are in the Army until we start communicating with each other. We have to actually start that communication. And I started with my family. I started, with my mom and my dad. And at the time, they were working, so I had to rely on people. To something I wasn't really used to because I didn't have to. I didn't have no kids. But now that I have a son, it changed my whole world.
So would you first say, in order to prepare, being a grit parent, preparing a child in the Army for this Army life, the first strategy is communication?
Yes, you have to start with communicating with your family, with your loved ones, and the people around you, because that's going to be your main support system. And with Chiron, what I end up having to do is I had to prepare him as he got older. Sometimes when I had to go away, he was still young. So what I would do is if I'm dropping Chiron off, I would drop him off with diapers, with milk, his clothing, everything I would think he would need at the time that he's staying, to include some like personal hygiene items. I made sure he had everything he needed. I even had it so it was like in little storage bags. That's how deep I got.
When I talk about communication, like what I told you, these last 2 years, I was a part of this village, this support system, which I never was before. So it was really different for me. So when she's talking about communication, not only is she communicating the clothes, but she's also communicating his schedule, right? Like, I'm even talking to teachers when she goes away. What's the longest time you've been away?
For at least 30 days.
30 days. And I was a part of that.
Yes.
And I had to, I had to know what the pickup drop-off time, I had to know when the gym times were,
Yes.
I had to know when he had to bring the snack to school, I had to know about daycare routines and communicating all of these things when your child is away. How do you prepare Chiron for that?
So mainly it was like before I prepared him, I had to prepare his teachers. I had to prepare you for watching him and his teachers to know that I will be gone. So like a lot of times when I'm telling them I'm going to be away, they know Chiron may go through a little bit of a melancholy. And they are working with him. If he acts out of place, they know it's because I'm not around.
I think that's a good point because a lot of time we don't communicate with these caregivers. We only communicate with our family, and people will be in constant contact with him at home. But at school, an educator needs to know if your child is not feeling great, like it's not because they don't want to do the work. Maybe he's disengaged. It's not because he's being malicious, but he's missing his mom.
Yes.
Right? And I just don't want to focus on, we're going to focus now because she's a single parent in the Army, but this is for just parents, families in the Army, because you lose a caregiver. You lose a parent when one person goes away. So you become, if you have two parents in the home, you become a single parent at that time.
Yes.
So it's different too in that way too. So the communication is key. All around knowing the schedule, all around communicating, that is key. So that's a great strategy, and be very, very vigilant of that, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about the second strategy. I'm included in this second one. So what is the second one?
Well, mainly the second one is building that community. You know what I'm saying? Building those strong bonds with people. Because sometimes because we PCS so often, we have to find people. We have to find battle buddies sometimes in certain locations. Okay, you're off today. You don't have to work. You know, we have to work it out. You'll keep all the kids at your house. We'll pick them up. And building that communication. Even with you. Like, okay, sometimes when I'm at drill and I don't know what time I'm getting off, I have to communicate with you, Khadijah. I'm still at work. I know the regular 9 to 5 is outside that spectrum. You know what I'm saying? It's like sometimes I'll be in there from 6 o'clock and don't leave till 7, 8 o'clock at night. And it's not because of the work. It's mainly because of the work I do and what I do for my unit. And that's the difference between you would say your regular person, I just went to drill and okay, I'm free to go, but they have been free since 4 o'clock and I'm still at work because, guess what? We have these reports that has to be done. This has to be closed out. You know, there's certain things that happens when you're full-time AGR, that's what we call it, Active Guard and Reserves. That's what we call those Active Guard and Reserves. We're full-timers. So it's like, it's maybe different for somebody who comes in there just for a drill weekend, depending on who it is. But mainly for us, we have to stay up after hours.
Yeah, so I think that is important to note because building out your community is far beyond your family, right? Because your family now extends to even your unit.
Yes.
Right? And they're become your family. Like they're single parents there that you can definitely barter with. And you touched upon people that, hey, you off? I'm off. Like I'll take you one day, you take me one day. So I just want to be clear, there's not really a daycare outside of
how it works for us. It's called the Child Youth and Development Center. And what we do is they'll watch our kids but for only a limited amount of time. So sometimes our timing may come like us, you know, it might be a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and anything outside of that realm is off limits. I remember when I had one soldier and he was a single father, and I was like, at the time I didn't have anybody watch Chiron at that time because a lot of things were going on. So he was like, well, I got a babysitter coming to my house. You bring your son, drop him off at my house and just pick him up. And we did it like that, back and forth. You get a babysitter this week, this drill weekend. I'll get a babysitter next drill weekend, and back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, I mean, like, and it was just happenstance. So my son is exposed to a lot of people only because I needed that support system. It's hard to not have when you don't have it. You have to build it up yourself.
Yeah, I understand that. So, which then brings us to the third, like this relationship building that you have to have. These strategies that he has to grow up differently and faster and be able to protect himself in these stranger spaces different than anyone else, right? Because I know with my kids, like I have like 3 people and that's it. Like I got 3 people I can trust. That's my mother, my father, his grandparents, and his father, and their father. And you know, aunts and uncles, but friends extends to 3 people. For you, it extends to the unit. So you have to be able to, Chiron has to be able to communicate in a way that they can understand. And when you go away for long periods of time, that he has to become independent and keep up with his stuff, know things about him.
Yes, like even from birth, Chiron knew how to spell his name. Like we had to get him on that avenue. But at the same time, I had to teach him how to his brush his teeth. I had to give him in such a way that he had a set sleeping schedule. Like 7 o'clock, I know Kyron 7:30. Kyron goes down, and that's it. Once he goes down from 7:30, this way people are more willing to watch him. You know what I'm saying? Because if he wasn't on a sleeping schedule or he didn't have those those core structure, nobody ain't gonna watch no.
And that's interesting because you know you're gonna need people, so you gotta make sure that his temperament is in a way that people want to watch him.
Yes.
Right. And because you don't know how long you might be gone, 2 weeks or 30 days, or even a weekend, that you don't want to become the child where nobody wants to watch.
Yes.
Which is different.
And it becomes difficult for me because wait a minute, hold up, we can't have that. Like
That's right.
you can't. I had to get him in such a way that I can. You have to talk to Kyron 2 and 3 times. You talk to him once and he does what you ask. If you need him to do something, just ask him, he'll do it, okay? I already had, when it comes to him and bathing, he knew how to bathe himself, brush his teeth, and everything, put on his own clothes, and that was at the age of 2. He had to do that.
That is amazing.
He walked, and now he putting on his own clothes, he putting himself to sleep. But that's what I had to do. And it's like you're pushing them to leave behind a lot of the little things. Sometimes I got to remember, Kyron's only 5. You know what I'm saying? You 5. Like, I can't push you. And even when we incorporate, he just went to kindergarten this year. So it was kind of like a whole different ball game for him. Because now, okay, he has these spelling words. He has his reading list he has to know. He has to count from 1 to 100.
And everybody had the reading list, child.
Okay.
Everybody had to read the list. Anybody who watched Kyron had the reading list. We had the rainbow words. We had it all. Okay. So it does extend far beyond our traditional family home. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying, I'm just showing you that it's different. I'm just opening up a new space where I've never experienced this before. And I know there's other parents that are experiencing this. And if you are thinking about enlisting in the Army, what does that mean if you are a single parent? What does that mean? How do you make it better if you are still struggling? Like, get with these communities, build these relationships, try to make your child as independent as possible, considering that they're going to be away from you. And you don't know how long sometimes or when it may happen. We wanted to leave you with those 4 strategies. Communicating with your village, communicating with your child, communicating with those people in your unit, because they become your village, right? And you all become a community that ends up helping each other. Secondly, of course, build out that community, right? So not only communicate with the village, but build it out. So you move every 4 years.
Yeah,
possibly.
That
is it's up.
It's up, but at the same time, you never with this village, like, and it's a village, and everybody says it takes a village to raise a child, and it's so true. I mean, it takes a village, and with your village, the people you come to know, it's not like you're leaving them behind. It's just that, you know what?
Because you still go to Jersey to drop them off.
Yes, I do. I still go to Jersey.
At her own unit.
Yes. And they'll call me, hey, what Kyron doing? You want him to drop him off? And then sometimes it'd be a blessing. I was like, okay, not a problem. I got a couple of people up in New Jersey. I got some people down here in Maryland, and even people in New York. It's just comes to that realization, for me anyway, that guess what? Just because a lot of times people don't like to see loss. I don't like my son to know loss. But at the same time, you're not losing anybody. You just got a new auntie. Your family just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And we like to, and as the more you get to know people, you get to be a part of their family, and they are part of your family now. And we build that, and we're growing. The Army can be the biggest place in the world, but the smallest place. I mean, I knew one person. I was with her on my first duty station when Kyron was first born. Come to find out, she back here again. You know, your circle does not, you just never lose people in your circle. It's just they go to certain locations, and guess what? Y'all meet back up. Okay. It's a small place in that retrospect.
So I just, and the last 2 were independence, building your child's independence so they can be able to handle their schedule and know their schedule when you're not there. To tell the caregiver if they forgot, or if they know their allergies. Kyron has asthma. He knows not to take too many pumps, or when he really needs to take a pump, and when he doesn't. So knowing he has to become independent and know those things about himself. And most importantly, which we forgot to note, but it's definitely in the communication piece, is when you're able to call him right?
Yes.
And him knowing when you're able to call him. And I got this strategy from a young lady on Facebook, and she knows who she is as she watches this video. But when she was gone for 30 days last year, we did this thing where I had a certain amount of candy for 30 days. And each day, I put 30 pieces of candy in this jar, and each day he got to eat one. So when he knew he was down to his last candy, he knew his mother was coming home. So it was a certain expectancy, but he would ask me, and he didn't understand time. Like a 4-year-old, he was 4 at that time. He didn't understand concept of time, but he knew each time he lost a piece, he ate a piece of candy, and he was getting closer and closer to his mother coming home. So that's another thing, like that expectancy, being able to communicate, because it is lost. It is like, he's sharing you. He's
Pretty
sharing
much.
you with your
It's
life.
like with our kids, what we like. For me, it's like I enlisted and he enlisted.
That's right.
Regardless of
We
how,
all enlisted.
we all enlisted right now. We on this journey, and we're all together on this journey. And the more I make him feel like he's a part of the decision making, even when I move, before I pick out a room for Chiron, to make him a part of the moving process, I ask him to pick out his own room. Mm-hmm. So he'll have like, okay, this is some sense of ownership, and a lot of times, when we go through this process, girls are packing up, moving, we going to AT, as long as he feels like he's a part of the decision making, he feels like, okay, I can do this. You know what I'm saying? It's just some chips on his shoulder. And it's hard because I don't want him to grow up too fast, even though he's going to be 6 this year. And I have to remind myself he's going to be 6 this year. And him going through all the things that he's been through at such a young age. I mean, I didn't even, I'm telling you the truth, this is how big my circle is. I didn't even teach Chiron to walk. When I came back from training, Chiron was walking. And I'm sitting there like, oh, I had to carry you at one time, now you walking. But, that's how our circle is. Sometimes I do miss the little milestones. It hurts a little bit when I miss the milestones, but knowing that he's with somebody that I love and I trust makes it all much better.
So, in closing...
One last point.
Oh, I was going
the iPads. The iPads is wonderful. You can FaceTime your kids from just about any place in the world, and it's like, oh wow, I feel like I'm a little bit closer. I'm a little closer to him. Like I can FaceTime him. Hey, Chiron, what you doing? Or he'll make recordings while I'm gone. Hey, mommy, this is what I did when you were gone. I remember last time I left, I had a whole lot of pictures because his iPad and my phone are connected. So when they're connected, my phone, all his camera feeds show up on my phone. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what you do, and it makes me feel like I'm there even though I'm not.
Okay. So in conclusion, what would you leave as now this is all not to say the armed forces. There is the Navy. There is the
Air Force, Army. I mean, you got when it comes to armed forces, you got the Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps. You got the Army, and you got the Coast Guard. These are all
National Guard, which our other sister was in.
National Guard is also a derivative of like reserves. National Guard, active duty. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's for all branches.
So it's not a bad thing, and it's just different. And it's a different thing that I never was privy to until I was on this journey and so close with my sister in this journey. So it's not a bad thing. It's just different. And her grit is different. And that's why I wanted to showcase her on this special Independence Day, because they should be honored, because their grit is unlike my traditional every day I got to pick up, maybe I pay the late fee. Well, maybe you just gone for the whole 2 weeks. Okay? So that's something that's different, and I wanted to highlight that because there are a lot of single parents in the Army. And even if you are a family in the Army, when one person goes away, you are single. So I just wanted to highlight you all, and I want to honor you all, because what you all do for our country is amazing. You put your lives on the line, and we thank you and we honor you, and you give your children, abandon your children for this work. And that is something to be celebrated. So I hope you feel celebrated.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
And I hope you feel honored. And anybody who is a part of the Armed Forces, we honor you. And this is your time to be celebrated. And we thank you. You've been deployed how many times?
Twice.
So yes, veterans. You too. But we thank you. We honor you. And this is a special show for these special armed forces people. And we thank you once again. Thank you for tuning in. This is Grit Parent. Bye.
Bye.
Home, sir. Louis, sir.
Good. Hey.
Hey guys,